so much of the game when we were little was just not being scared of adults.
Oh, absolutely.
Like walking up to adults, speaking clearly, being confident, and like that was most of the challenge for a lot of kids. You know, a lot of kids could perform, but were still shy.
You needed to have moxie. I think like that was it was at that time the industry was like the kids that came in. I remember one commercial audition. I was in the waiting room for over 3.5 hours. I remember telling my mom I was hungry. Let's just go home. And we knew the casting director. She's like, no, we can't. We have to stay. You know, this is somebody that we know. And so I went into the audition and I was like, you couldn't find anybody already? Like, what is taking you so long? Like, honestly, you've seen everybody. And they're like, you got the job. And then I finally just was like, let's go get something to eat. And we left. But it was something, and that's actually what I feel like what's sad now, because so many people who are getting in the industry now don't get that experience. Like the joy for me was auditioning and being able to like go in and have those relationships with the casting directors and like being able to like express yourself that way and show who and what we are. Now everything's self-tape, and like you find so many actors that like they talk to themselves in the mirror for so long that they forget like how to interact. It's weird. It's a different.
I don't know. I mean, I tend to actually like, not that I audition anymore, but after the Seventh Heaven, I had a lot of anxiety about auditions because I was so young when I started and got Seventh Heaven or the part that I don't really have the memory of like going in there and owning it.
Well, yeah, because you had Seventh Heaven when you were 6.
You were 6.
I really do not find auditions a comfortable place to be, and struggled with anxiety about that. So the self-tape is like ideal. I'm like, all right, I could just do this and send it in.
I know auditions was life when I was a kid. Like that was the way of life. You go into the city, do 3 or 4 a day.
Yeah.
I remember I got my start because I was hanging out with a friend in kindergarten one day. And this guy my friend was in acting classes. I was not. I was just hanging out. And his mom was watching me because my mom was not watching me. and this guy sticks his head out of a window and was like, that's a really cute little kid. You should call my friend. And his friend became my first manager, Terrence, whom I recently...
I love Terrence.
Yeah.
He was so sweet.
I caught up with Terrence this past year, and he's a sweetheart. He said that he had been having a conversation with his friend. He's like, I think I'm looking for like a young kid like to develop. Like this is exactly what his parameters were for the next client that he was looking for. And then like I just walked down this hallway apparently and that was it. And his friend's like, I got your girl, And I only did really.
If we didn't know Terrence, this story is actually quite creepy, but we actually know that Terrence is a good person. But I will have to say that like the retelling, there's part of it that seems like these days would send up like red flags being like,
well,
but
yeah.
What I'm saying is you were good and he's a great manager.
But I also feel like back then the discovery out and about is kind of like a more traditional story. Right. I think it's like probably weirder or like that like when I was a kid, my mom just kind of like
really wasn't.
No.
So anyways, I just remember like the first 2 years of us, because I only moved to California when I was 4, and we didn't move to be an actor or anything. We moved because my dad got a job out there. But I just remember being on the freeway a lot. I remember sitting in my booster seat for a long time. I got really good at reading in the backseat of a car without vomiting. And
an important skill.
Lots of auditions and lots of Polaroids and a few commercials. And then I was, at my family's house in Rancho Cucamonga, which is where I lived during the first.
Oh my God, you had to drive so.
I didn't drive, girl.
Well, that's true.
Like we established that I didn't drive until I was 18, really.
Yes.
But I rode a lot. Yeah, so my grandparents, I remember they like helped us pay for my SAG dues the first year when I had to join SAG. When it was eligible, like, it was exciting, right? But I didn't really know a whole lot about it. And they're like, yeah, your show, it got picked up. And I'm like, great. What's that? You know? I remember shooting the pilot and those slippers. They had these slippers that I would wear all the time, and they made them like look really disgustingly dirty on purpose. And I remember us jumping around in circles, holding hands by that banister. Like there was a staircase nearby where we were, and then my mom was like, you know, you could do the pilot, but you never know that if it's going to get picked up. Most of them don't get picked up. And I'm like, okay.
Just very true.
And then the phone call happens, it gets picked up. And then it's like the phone call every year, it's picked up again and again.
Do you remember where you were when you found out the pilot went?
Yeah.
Like, do you remember that moment?
The kitchen next to our kitchen phone of
the house phone.
The house phone
of our Rancho Cucamonga
house. It was, by the way, that was a 2-hour commute each direction.
To Santa Monica.
Yeah.
Because that's where we shot.
A lot of time in the 10.
I actually don't remember finding out that we were picked up. I don't have that memory.
I remember we were about to leave the house. I mean, I don't remember much about the context of it, but I just remember like my family was like trying to get out of the house, you know, which is always a process with all of us and all the kids. And then the phone rang and everything stopped. My parents found out, and then it turned into like.
Did any of your siblings audition? Because Chandler did some auditions as well. He broke his arm in one audition.
He broke his arm in an audition?
In an audition.
How do you do that?
When we were like young, we would do this thing, or someone would pick us up, and then we would flip back upside down. And my 4-year-old brother does that to the man he's like testing with in the audition. And the guy dropped him.
Oh, man.
Broke his arm.
That sucks.
Poor Chandler.
I don't think I ever had an injury in an audition.
He didn't
No.
really enjoy auditions very much.
That's probably why he didn't.
It's not a great experience.
Yeah.
But did you? I don't remember if any of your siblings did it as well.
Yeah,
Did
all
they?
my brothers and sisters like tried it out for a little while. My sister Michelle did a movie with Mira Sorvino and Michael Imperiali back in the indie film called Sweet Nothing.
Oh,
and she played her, and I think she had a brother. There was 2 little kids, and there was a sequence in the film where I think it was Michael Imperiali like comes in, he comes slamming through the house and breaking stuff and yelling and whatever. And they didn't tell, you know, they wanted to get the kids' reactions to it kind of organically, which they certainly did. My sister flipped out, and then she was like scared of Michael after that, and like didn't really understand. And after that, I don't think she wanted to do it anymore. Like she just kind of like all of my brothers and sisters did it for a little while and kind of didn't really attach to it in the way that I did. And I kind of went as far as I did in this business because I would go out on a ton of auditions and I'd go home and I'd be like, great, and I'd play my Nintendo and I would out of sight, out of mind. Like I was done with the auditions. I didn't care. So
I think
a lot of things in life are
you know?
like that. If it's not that important to you, it's much easier. It's when you when something is everything, you know, that you are about, then it definitely.
But I also was lucky
increases the anxiety.
I had a certain amount of success each year. Every now and then something came through and I would get to be on a set. And being on set for me was like the best. That to me was the best. I loved being on set.
That is like
I still love being on set.
It's my most comfortable place to be. It's like I know what's expected of me, what to do, where to stand, how to be. It's just like
and you feel like you're contributing and you have a job to do and you feel important
and you know how to
it's
do
great.
it.
Yeah.
I think also my mom used to say that when I was auditioning, she always used to say like, your turn will come. So I always remembered like when all of my friends would like get, because we'd always be the same people. I was like Scarlett Johansson, Natalie Portman, like all these people I'd go up against and I'd be like, oh, okay, well they get it. Like, you know, and so I knew my time was coming. And I think, you know, I also knew that's also part of like why I fought so hard for Seventh Heaven, because that's the first and only part that I like really was like, no, I really think that this should be it. And I actually think I may have initially went out for Mary and then switched to Lucy. I'm not sure. I think that was part of it, which obviously Lucy was far better for that, because you guys obviously only read for because that was too
long. But there were other things that you would read for different ones.
I did, and I just remember reading.
I wasn't reading for Simon's part though.
I remember reading the whole pilot too, and just
Boy and his dog.
Thinking,
you had no shot. That was me.
Yeah.